In this video, we're going to solve quadratic inequalities algebraically. So when you solve, you need to solve for x, just like this is an equation, not an inequality. So you have x squared minus 7x is greater than 0. I see that this is a quadratic because of that squared, and so we are going to solve. You've got 3 ways to solve. You can factor, you can use quadratic formula, or if it applies, you can use square root property. You can't use square root property here because you do have a b, but we can factor this one. When you factor, first you want to make sure you have 0 on the other side. Even though it's an inequality, you still want 0 on one side and then everything else on the other, so that's good. Then you want to check for a GCF. Is there something I can factor out of both x squared and a negative 7x? Hopefully you see that it is an x. So when I factor out an x squared divided by x is x, and negative 7x divided by x is a negative 7. Here, if you distribute back, x times x is x squared, and x times negative 7 is negative 7x. So now solve. The first one we get is x equals 0. And the second one here, I'm going to do x minus 7 equals 0. And so x equals 7. Okay. So now let's just kind of make a little number line here. And I know that I have my 2 solutions on this number line. So I've got 0 here, and I have 7 here. This is where this quadratic, this parabola is crossing my x-axis. So it's either a parabola going this way or a parabola going this way, but it's crossing my x-axis at those 2 places. Once you solve this, you get your numbers on your number line, you need to pick some test points. And you want to pick your test points in between your intervals of your solution. So in this case, I've got 3 different intervals I need to do. So here you'll pick something that is less than 0. So you can pick, I'm going to go with negative 1, but we could have picked negative 2, negative 5, negative 10, negative 50, negative 106. Okay, you just need something that is less than 0. Then we'll need something in between our 2 numbers here. I like to kind of stay smaller. So 1 would be great. If you want to pick something smack dab in the middle, you could go with maybe 4. You could go with 2, 3, 5, 6, just something in between. You can pick decimals. You can pick 4.3. Just pick something in between. And then lastly, I have an interval over here. I want something greater than 7. And I'm going to go 8. So I have 3 intervals between my solutions. I'm picking 3 test points. Okay. So now let's plug those into our equation. So when I use negative 1, I'm going to plug it into right here. I've got negative 1 squared minus 7 times negative 1. And I don't really care what this equals, but I'm looking for negatives and positives. Okay, here we get 8. So I get positive here. Now I'm going to go ahead and plug in 4 and 8, my other 2 test points. But really and truly, you should have enough information. I know if this is a parabola, that it's going to make a U shape either up or down. I know that this is positive, so I know that this parabola is going up. So I know it's going to start here positive, it's going to come down here negative, and then it's going to come back up here positive, right? It's going to start up here, it's going to cross at 0, go down negative, and it's going to come back up. I'm going to hit my vertex down here somewhere. It's going to come back up, hit another 0 at 7, and then come back up positive. So I already know what these are going to be. But for practice, I'm going to go ahead and plug in 4. And I'm going to plug in 8. So I'm just going to come up here and edit. And we've got 4. And 4. So exactly what we said, that's negative. And we get another 8. So positive, negative, positive, positive, negative, positive. You want to make sure you can do this because we're not always going to be doing this with quadratics, and we need to understand this process. Okay. But now I can answer my question. I want to know when this is greater than 0. Well, it's going to be greater than 0 in my positive portions here. I've got 2 sections of positive that are split up. So I'm going to have 2 numbers or 2 sections here with the union in between. So I'm going to represent this portion here from negative infinity to 0. And because this is just greater than and not greater than or equal to, it gets a parenthesis that 0 is not included. And then this portion here is 7 to infinity. Okay, let's do it again. I need to solve this, and it's not in the right form yet. This needs to have 0 over here. So I need to move my 10 over. So I've got x squared plus 3x minus 10 is less than 0. I can't use square root property to solve because I have a b. So let's try factoring before we use quadratic formula. My a times c is negative 10 and my b is 3. What adds up to 3 and multiplies to ac? I'm going to give you a minute to think about it. Hopefully you can see that's 5 and negative 2. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. When you add, you get positive 3. This is an easy trinomial because my a is 1. And so this factors to x plus 5, x minus 2. When I set x plus 5 equal to 0, I'm going to get x is negative 5. And when I set x minus 2 equal to 0, I'm going to get x is 2. So when I set up my number line, I've got negative 5 and I have 2. So I need to find some test points between my 3 intervals. I need something over here that's less than negative 5. Let's go negative 6. I need something in between these two. If you can pick 0, always go 0. And then I need something over here. You can pick 3. 3 would be great. Let's just get crazy and go 5. So my 3 test points for my 3 intervals. I want to know, is this positive, negative, or positive? I guess I said 3. I need to know if it's positive or negative. We're going to come down here and we're going to plug these in so that we can get practice, because practice makes perfect. But from previous lessons, well, from previous videos in this lesson, you should know what this is going to look like. from right here, this is a parabola. Because A is positive, this parabola should be opening up. And so what we have on this graph are its two x, we have its two x-intercepts right here. So we know it's going to come up, it's going to cross right here at -5. We're going to come down here, get its vertex. It's going to change directions, cross the x-intercept right here, and then keep going up. So I know this is positive, negative, positive again. This is not always going to be the case because it was over here as well. This is not always going to happen, right? But, okay, we should know that. But let's get practice at plugging this in, and I'm going to plug this into this portion here. Okay, so -6, I'm going to plug that in for both of my x's. So I've got -6 squared plus 3 times -6 minus 10. When we get positive, we got another 8. Okay, right here. So positive, which is what we said. Let's go over here to 0. So I'm going to arrow up, hit enter to edit, and change these to 0. And you need to make sure you can do this. We get -10, which is what we said, negative. And I guess 0 should have made sense. It just canceled out both of those x's. That's actually our y-intercept, right? And then lastly, 5 is 30, which we said was positive. So in this problem, I want to know when this equation, when this graph is less than 0. Well, your less than 0 is going to be right here when this graph is negative. It is negative between -5 and 2. Why am I using parentheses and not brackets? Because this is less than and not less than or equal to. It's got to have that line under it to get those hard brackets.